It is time now to go inside out as we welcome in SNY NBA insider Eamon Begley. And Ian, you've been around this team all year. You know the players well. So how do you think the Knicks will respond in Game 2?
I think they're going to play more so like they played the first 46 minutes and not like the last 2 minutes. I do think they will clean up the mistakes that you saw last 2 minutes of regulation and in overtime, because if you've seen this group this postseason, you go back to early in the Detroit series. They come out in Game 3 in Detroit and play really well after a bad Game 2. And then the Boston series. Game 5, really bad, and they correct their mistakes, come out in Game 6 and play really well. So there's a pattern here of them regrouping in between games and correcting the errors, and I don't think you're going to see anything different from this Knicks team Game 2. This is a group that seems to be aware of its mistakes and able to correct things on the fly.
You know life in this town as well as anyone. Tom Thibodeau now taking the brunt of the criticism after Game 1. So has that collapse once again turned this series into a referendum on the Knicks head coach?
I don't see it that way. I mean, look, they got to a place where they weren't the last 2 seasons. They got to the conference finals, and that's progress. And so I think it's as simple as that. Now, look, if you come out and you have 2 or 3 more games like you did Game 1, maybe it's a different conversation. But I wouldn't expect that from this team. I'd be surprised if they continue to struggle late in these games or the way we saw it in Game 1. That was a monumental collapse. But this team seems to me like a group that can collectively get itself off the deck and come back and play better in Game 2.
JJ is back for more on the Knicks. Jaylen Brunson, who we just heard from, goes for 43 in Game 1. But according to NBA.com, when you combine his offensive rating with his defensive rating, his net rating, negative 20.5. So, JJ, how should Tom Thibodeau balance all the positives that Brunson brings to the table with his apparent shortcomings on D?
Well, you saw in that overtime session, Rick Carlisle's Indiana Pacers were looking to hunt Jaylen Brunson, and they exposed him on a couple of different possessions that ended up being costly in this particular game. And it's crazy you're talking about Jaylen Brunson with 40-something points in Game 1, and he was basically -8 or -9 for the game. Now, that said, Jaylen Brunson is the straw that stirs the drink for this team. He is the best player on the team. He's the guy you want out there at the end of the games. You're going to have to deal with his defensive shortcomings. The good news for the Knicks, they have been able to do that throughout most of this postseason. Now, if you look at their minutes in game number 1, the Knicks starters defensively stunk. You saw it in the first quarter. You saw it at the end of the fourth quarter. That's why they have looked like a completely different team when Mitchell Robinson is on the floor, whether he's playing alongside Karl Anthony Towns or not. So how do you kind of mask the deficiencies of Brunson as a defender? It comes down to Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and yes, Mitchell Robinson. The guys who are big-time defenders on this team, they take on more responsibility. They got to help out a little bit more. You know they're going to try to expose Brunson in switches. You got to be ready for it.
Yeah, it also would help if Brunson stays out of foul trouble, although they did go on the run when he went to the bench. All right, JJ, what is your gut telling you for Game 2?
Well, Eamon, if this is not a resounding victory for the New York Knicks, I think there is sound the alarm, five-alarm fire, whatever you want to call it, if this game is a 2 or 3 point game going into the final minute or 2. To me, the Knicks have all of the added incentive of momentum and motivation as far as, well, not momentum. It's the idea of avenging what happened on Wednesday night. I'll use that as momentum. I'll use that as motivation. And to me, the way this series shakes out, you can't expect to go to Indianapolis down 2-0 and think you're going to find a way to win the series. I know the Knicks have been an outstanding road team throughout this postseason. The 2 wins in Boston, the second round, all 3 of the games in Detroit. They can win a game or 2 in Indy. They are not winning this series if they lose the first 2 games. Knicks win, Knicks cover. I think it's a big-time party on Friday night.
All right, very curious to see the atmosphere at the Garden on Friday night.
I think they have the right mentality going into Game 2, and I do trust that they can move on quicker than maybe most and get the series even at 1-1.
But you did hit on the scary part. This is not a fluke for Indiana. They've been doing it all postseason long, so they expect to win no matter how large the deficit is. So what's your biggest concern with the Knicks moving forward for the rest of the series?
that the Knicks are sloppy, Eamon, and to win a championship here, to get to the NBA Finals, my biggest concern would be Jaylen Brunson turning the ball over, would be Jaylen Brunson with the fouls, and I'm not trying to pick on Jaylen Brunson, but those are two particular things that have come back to bite the Knicks a couple of different times. The Knicks at the free throw line, the little things. I'm not worried about Towns scoring or even OG Anunoby. The Knicks will score points, and I do think the Knicks will be able to come up with some stops when necessary, although it didn't happen in the final few minutes of the game in Game 1. I'm worried about the free throws, the bad fouls, the sloppiness from the Knicks, which has been a constant throughout the course of the season.